Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side, and it's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Welcome, everyone, to the Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast, the podcast for Packer fans who realize we probably had the biggest loss of the season so far this past Sunday. And no, I'm not talking about the loss to the Purple, but we'll get there momentarily. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Marcus. Marcus, how you doing?
Doing well, Chuck. Yourself?
I'm okay. You know, after the game on Sunday, obviously I was a little bummed out about losing to the Vikings. But more importantly, I was constantly refreshing my G&G Boyz with the Z Twitter page, trying to get the injury update. And my biggest fears were realized when I saw that Elgton Jenkins is out for the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. And honestly, that is a far bigger blow, in my opinion, than losing this past Sunday.
Absolutely. He's a guy who was obviously battling an ankle injury for most of the season already. He's been our most versatile lineman for the last couple of years. Huge loss for us, and it's going to be a hard one to recover from because we don't know if or when David Bakhtiari is going to be back. I think we're all still hopeful that he can be. I think we're all a little confused as to why that hasn't happened yet. But, maybe they're waiting till after the bye, and then he's going to go regardless. So I don't know, but this is a huge blow to our offensive line. A line that was already kind of patchwork, in a lot of respects.
Yeah, I to your point, I think the buzz around the media, because we're members of that now, is that the expectation is that is David will be ready to go after the bye, but they haven't actually said that. So to your point, we don't know for sure if he's coming back. And now that we did drop this game to the Vikings, that makes this next week against the Rams all the bigger game, right? Let's not get ahead of ourselves right now. Let's recap some of this game that we watched this past weekend. I think this is a hard loss for you and I being up here in the cities. I've gotten plenty of text messages. I've gotten plenty of side comments at work. I did not want to lose it for personal reasons or for the Packers' sake, but that's a tough one. Overall, what were your, let's talk about the negatives first. I guess what the hell happened out there?
I think we had been relying on our defense a lot these last 3 weeks, right? They had allowed a combined, 34 points, between the Arizona game, the Chiefs game, and the Seahawks game. And I think we all expected that to continue into this game. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings have had a really good offense this year. After this week, he and Aaron Rodgers have almost identical numbers so far this season. Same number of touchdown passes, almost an identical passer rating. And I think our defense played well for the most part, but just missed every opportunity. We had a couple of things that were just dumb, boneheaded mistakes. You talk about the Kingsley Keke roughing the passer call that negated an interception. You talk about
that ball was going there regardless of how
absolutely
he got it. That was the worst throw.
All he had to do was push him down. He didn't need to tackle him at that point. The ball was basically out of his hand already. And it's just things like that, mental errors. It's just like, it's not even
and that
like...
was a penalty.
Yeah.
For all you Vikings
absolutely.
fans out there, we're not saying that was a bad flag, right? For sure, head-to-head contact there. But, oh my God, it did not need to happen.
No, it's just boneheaded plays like that just frustrate the heck out of me. And then you talk about... the strip sack from Kirk Cousins. They get it back when I forget who the defender was right there, but had he just turned around and looked for the football, we could have recovered on that strip sack, and it could have been our ball right there, and that could have been a game-changing play. And then obviously the second to last drive for the Vikings when we which should have been an interception. I think it was Adrian Amos, and he just didn't finish the catch, and he dropped an interception. And it's just things like that. Like we you need to be able to capitalize on every opportunity, and we missed so many. Any one of those could have been a game changer. Mason Crosby missing a short field goal. I mean, it wasn't just the defense. I mean, our offense getting off to a slow start. I mean, we convert that first drive into a touchdown instead of a field goal. There you go. There's that extra point we would have needed to win. It's just stuff like that drives me absolutely bonkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you and I are both hockey guys, and the best analogy I came to watching that game is we just didn't have good puck luck this Sunday, right? Just every bounce didn't seem to go our way. A lot of it was self-inflicted. I mean, you didn't, of that long list of things you just mentioned, you didn't talk at all about the number of penalties against us pre-snap, against the Packers against the Vikings. Comparatively, they seem like the least penalized team in the NFL, not us, right? And I think before that game, they kept saying it, like the second least penalized team, and we're all over the place, being offsides, false starts, holdings, always just kind of being behind the chains. The thing you brought up was not being able to jump on that strip sack, which of course would have flipped the field, getting the ball at the 50-yard line. Instead, they punted it, and they pinned us back. I think we ended up getting a touchdown that drive anyway, but still, we were on the 5 to 10 yard line, and it feels like the last 2-3 weeks we've been starting every drive within the 10 yard line, and we are not at all winning the field position battles. Do you make anything of that? Is that just kind of bad luck with good punters on the other team there? Or, I mean, why can't we seem to get a 20 yard or 30 yard starting point?
Yeah, I mean, I think if your offense isn't playing in a rhythm and we're not getting the yardage, that's going to affect it for sure. I mean, and I think that's been the case the last month of the season. And so if a punter is kicking from their own 50-yard line, like obviously that's going to pin us back within the 10-yard line. If we were able to move the ball a little bit more effectively, I think consistently, and have them punting from, their own 15 or 20 or 25-yard line, then we can get the ball back, maybe with better field position. So I think it comes down to things like 3 and outs or, getting one first down and then having to punt. If you can't move the ball effectively, that's going to affect the field position battle for sure.
Before we get off of all the blunders that we listed off already, one that we're not talking about yet because it was negated by the roughing the passer penalty is, I forget who picked it off, but how about him tripping over himself on the 45-yard line? I mean, that potentially could have been a pick six if obviously the roughing the passer doesn't happen. But then, I mean, he had most of the offense behind him when he trips up around midfield. Did you catch that at all?
Yeah, I think that was Darnell Savage who had that pick and then just fell. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, he had green grass in front of him, and I don't know what happened because there was nobody touched him, and then he just falls. I mean, and to bring it back to hockey, it happens to me a lot. I feel like they get tripped by the blue line, but I don't know. I don't know how that happens.
It's obviously a moot point, but it just like, oh my god, that could have been 6 the other way. It felt like.
I mean, it got negated, but still, like that's just another example of not being able to capitalize. I mean, just tripping and falling on your own 2 feet, or over your own 2 feet, I should say. And obviously that penalty negated that interception anyways. But yeah, I mean, the penalties, the Packers had almost 100 yards in penalties. I mean, over 3 times as many yards as the Vikings had in penalties. And yeah, it just
all in the first half too.
It was just brutal. Yeah, I mean, 8 penalties for 92 yards and the Vikings only had 3 for 25. And, you talk about the Packers being the least penalized and the Vikings being, having been penalty ridden this entire season so far. It's just one of those weird kind of script flipping, games, I guess.
Yeah. The 2 things, so all the things that we just talked about are frustrating. And again, I'm going to chalk up to some, puck luck, bad puck luck. And you know what? Some teams are just, I mean, we haven't lost a game yet really and since week 1, and that was a blowout. Yeah, we lost against the Chiefs, but you can put an asterisk next to that for many reasons, right? Devontae coming off his first week from COVID, and obviously Rodgers not being in. So it could be just that game. You and I both said the Vikings were a hot team coming in, and it was a game that we wouldn't be shocked if we lost. We definitely picked ourselves winning. I actually think I picked 34-31 but just a flip score. We might want to check that on the replay, but I think I nailed the score, just the wrong winning team. Two things I want to talk about that are concerning that I do not blame on bad luck or just one of those days. The first thing is obvious, so I'm going to say it quickly and we don't have to talk about it again, but there is something very wrong with our special teams field goal unit. I don't know what the hell's going on, but we got to change something or everything right now because that's just unacceptable. The obvious math says if we get 3 points there, the game is tied with the clock running out. Yeah, they were knocking on the door for a touchdown, so maybe that doesn't change the ultimate, doesn't change the outcome of the game. But, 3 points there would have been huge. The second thing that I want to talk about that I think we haven't talked about in about a year is the play calling selection, specifically early in the game this season. We are continuously and consistently coming out slow and 3 and outs or 1 first down and settling for a field goal like we did here or punting like you mentioned. And I thought it was why follow me here, Arizona Cardinals lost the game against the Packers is because Rodgers was looking deep so quickly, so early, and there was never a rhythm established. And I do not understand that play calling so quickly in the game, so early in the game, consistently all season, and it seemingly never working. Like there's no justification. Like, oh, we get out to a hot start when we do that. No, we're typically punting after 1 first down when we're going these deep bombs, on the second play of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's because we came out and hit Devontae for a 35-yard completion to start the game, and then that kind of was like, okay, well, yeah, let's get this going, and then nothing happens from there. Rodgers missed a couple of deep throws to MVS, and if he hits those right away, that could change the entire outlook on this offense for that first half. But that
Devontae play wasn't a deep bomb. That was a 10-yard crossing route that he was left wide open, resulting in 35 yards, right? But I'm talking about those deep shots sideline, the one that we ultimately scored, with two minutes left of the game, the deep pass to, I think that was MVS who scored at the end there.
Yeah, MVS.
Yeah, MVS. Those are the plays, obviously at that time it was critical to score quickly. We scored too quickly. But I'm talking about those deep shots that just, every time he sat back, I was almost like, pumping the ball in the pocket. I'm like, oh, no, don't go deep. Because it just never seemed to work out until the second half.
Yeah, again, I think if we hit those right away, then the narrative changes. However, I don't know why we weren't kind of riding on the back of A.J. Dillon, or at least right away. I think it just boggles my mind when you have a guy like that have a game like he did against the Seattle Seahawks, and then we're just like, we're just going to throw a bunch. You know what I mean? Because you think the game plan is set for at least the first half, and the play calls are kind of already in. And so I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is changing things up at the line of scrimmage, or, like to your point, these are just bad decisions on Matt LaFleur's part. But yeah, I don't know how better to get into a rhythm without a balance of run pass, but also just kind of relying on that run game right away. Short passes, screen, slot crossers, stuff like that we can hit, and then establish a rhythm versus Aaron Rodgers throwing it to MVS down the sideline for 3 times in 6 plays for no completions. I don't get it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we would get a holding penalty or something, so all of a sudden it was 1st and 20. How many times? The Vikings played fantastic. We haven't talked about Stokes on Justin Jefferson yet. He lit him up, and you got to give the Vikings some credit there. But it felt like we kind of beat ourselves early in that game. And frankly, the announcer said it. The Vikings are 1 touchdown away from him, putting the game away essentially in the second quarter. When it was up 16-3, they were driving, and that game could have turned ugly quickly if our D didn't hold